I really enjoyed the movie.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because I used to collect these little footballers with like big heads, like soccer players, big heads and little bodies, and I used to play with them, and I used to think I was weird, and now it turns
You're
out
not.
I'm not weird.
Not weird at all.
I don't wear women's clothes though. That's still to come. I'm going to begin just by asking, what it was that initially attracted you to getting involved in this project.
Well, I love the idea of working with Steve and Robert Zemeckis, and just that alone, I think I would have done anything. But then this story happens to be an incredible story, and one that I'm like so proud of and happy to be a part of.
I was watching television. I was channel surfing. And I came across this documentary that was on public television. And I started watching it, and after watching it for about 10 or 15 minutes, I started to see the germ in this story that I thought could, become a, compelling movie.
I loved the character that you play in this movie, and he's one of those people, if you were to meet him and he was to explain his interest, collecting kind of women's shoes, or he plays with dolls at home, so very easy to judge someone like that initially,
Sure.
And I think people can sort of demonize people like that as well. But now you've obviously got into the head of someone like that. I mean, people like that, they're not harming anyone. They can have it. And I think this film is a real celebration of our kind of quirks, and our differences.
I absolutely agree, and that's why I was drawn to it. And to meet him in person is exactly that. He's a guy who. I don't think there's a cynical bone in his body. And after everything he went through, this traumatic experience, he's still the kindest, most open-hearted, lovely human being.
Because it's a real film that just sort of celebrates all of our sort of quirks and stuff, doesn't it? Because it's very easy if you were if someone was to describe Mark to you and say what all of his interests and stuff like that, it's very easy to demonize people like that and judge them. But you just realize if these things are kind of harmless, aren't they, to people? And if it makes them happy, then who are we to kind of judge them?
I think we all have our things, our isms and our quirks, and yeah, we all do. Even though we all try to pretend to be super normal. Not.
No. As a sort of storyteller, do you find that you're kind of, is it a sort of 24/7 vocation? Are you always not even subconsciously on the lookout for new stories? You'll be reading newspapers or reading a book or watching a film and always visualizing how you could then translate that into a movie.
I'm always using this expression, that could be a movie.
Yeah.
That's like someone comes with this incredible story that happened to him, on the freeway, and you say, well, you can make that into a movie.
Is that partly what makes acting so special for you? It must give you such a great understanding of the world, because you're constantly getting into the head and embodying people with different interests to yourself, or people that are from different walks of life. I mean, that must be one of the great kind of joys to this, is always, you must learn so much about the kind of world you live in some way.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to be able to portray people, especially people you admire like this, people who are so generous of spirit, and to, I don't know, there's also an added responsibility, I think, with someone like this, because you want to do them justice, you want to do their story justice, and you want to try to tell their story as honestly as you can. But yeah, it is exciting. It is exciting to do, and challenging as well.
There's loads of like kind of big emotional scenes in this, but I think the scene that really sticks with me is obviously when the sort of tea party that you have. Must have been quite a tough sequence, because I guess there's a lot of emotions in that scene. But because obviously she means so well, and obviously Boris is giving off the wrong impression to him and stuff. But it was almost a scene where it's not about what's said; it was a lot of what was unsaid. What was that like to shoot in particular?
Well, tracking, what was going on with my character, and then also what was going on in his imaginary world, and making sure that was all making sense. That was one part of it. And then, he's such an incredible actor, and it just, if I just fully believed the scene, it was the most heartbreaking thing ever to, be a part of that.
So I think we've all got our kind of own sort of small quirks and sort of, interests and hobbies and stuff. And I think this film is a real celebration, isn't it, of that, in the sense that, if you were to someone to explain Mark to you, and he said, I've got this friend, and said, he collects women's shoes, and he'd play, and he watches just sort of soft porn on his own at home. And so it'd be very easy to demonise people like that and judge them. But this is a film that sort of celebrates differences in us, doesn't it?
Or celebrates everyone's humanness.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, everybody's human and everybody's got their own form of expression. And, you know, I mean, I don't think, you know, I think we're too quick to judge people, wanting them to conform, wanting to put them in some sort of box or label them. And that, as film speaks to that.
Because in the movie, I mean, he doesn't seem to quite like any attention. He doesn't like anyone speaking to him about anything that's kind of happened in his life. And now he's got a movie made about him.
Yeah.
Well, have you got gauged his reaction in terms of that and how he feels about the fact that there's a whole big movie with a Hollywood star playing him?
I think he's definitely excited about it. He called me, left a very cryptic message after the trailer came out. And he left a message and said, "Steve, it's Mark. Could you give me a call?" And I thought, oh no, you know, maybe he didn't like the trailer, because it's the first image from any of the movie he'd seen. And so I called him back immediately, and he said, "Steve," and my heart was beating. I didn't know what to expect. He said, "Steve, I loved it. It's exactly right. I've watched it 10 times and I cry every time." So far, so good. You know, he's definitely on board. And he was so excited that Robert Zemeckis was making this because he's a huge fan of his, obviously. And we went and we met with him, and he, I just get the sense that, yes, I think there's a bit of trepidation, but at the same time, I think he's really excited to have his story expanded into this universe.
And of course, there was a doll which looks just like you. Did you get the chance to keep that? Did they let any of...
No.
That's not very fair.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you going to talk to Robert Zemeckis?
I'll have a word with Robert.
Can you ask
afterwards,
him
yeah.
if I can have my doll?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Have you ever taken anything / stolen anything from a set before that you really wanted to keep, memorabilia?
Yes, I'm sure I have. I think I take something from every movie, you know, even if it's something small. What have I taken from, what's the last thing I took? I'll just take like a sweater or something, but I tell people I'm taking it. I don't just steal it.
Yeah, just after you've done it.
I call them, by the way, I took that.
Yeah.
And you're not getting it back.
There was a doll that looks a bit like you. I was wondering if you had the chance to keep that sort of figure. And if have you ever stolen anything from a sort of set you've been on, any memorabilia?
I took one thing from the set of The Office, or it was actually given to me. Behind Michael Scott's desk, there is a certificate of authenticity of a Seiko watch, but Seiko is misspelled, so it was like a knockoff Seiko watch. So it's it's a certificate of authenticity for a knockoff. It's like a terrible, terrible inside joke. But that's the only thing I kept. I don't keep a lot of memorabilia. I don't, you know, I guess I just don't like to have big bins of clutter in my life. But sometimes just a little thing here and there. Yeah. I didn't get the doll though. No, unfortunately.
You should ask Robert.
I know. Give me a doll. I'm sure they were very, very expensive to make. But they're all photorealistic. These beautiful. They're beyond Barbies or G.I. Joes. They're really special.
Because I was asking the guys if they were able to keep their dolls. They were both disappointed that they weren't able to. But I was wondering if you ever keep any memorabilia or things from the movies you make. I mean, and given the amount of movies you've made, you could almost have a little museum in your house.
Well, not in my house. I have a storage locker that's filled with stuff from my movies, but you know what's interesting is I don't go in it. Stuff just goes in there, and I don't know what's going to happen to it. Yeah.
So what did you keep from Back to the Future?
Oh, I've got a hoverboard. I've got a pair of the self-lacing shoes. I've got a whole bunch of cool Back to the Future stuff.
I mentioned obviously just before we started those little footballers I used to have. Have you got any toys from your childhood that you just can't ever seem to throw away?
I do. I have a little pink cash register that my grandma Sadie gave me when I was probably 4 or 3, and I used to play with it all the time. And I get it up to put pennies and dimes and get it up to $10, and then it would open up and you could take all the money out, and I would just do it over and over and over again. And then I gave it to my kids, my eldest daughter and then my younger one, and then I just took it back. Now it's mine again.
Nice.
It's in my bedroom.
Have you got any toys from your childhood that you've just never quite been able to throw away?
There's a couple of them that I have, that are a couple of my favorite toys. I have a toy that was called Robot Commando, and it was a robot that fired missiles out of the top of his head, and his eyes kind of swirled around, and and you could steer him, and he was a remote control robot. I still have that.
I interviewed, sorry, it sounds like a name drop, but I interviewed Bryan Cranston.
Oh!
I know, listen to me.
Wow, look at you.
And he was talking to me about how when you become really famous, like he is or like you are, it becomes harder to analyse the small nuances to people around you, because generally members of the public aren't always the same around you, because people act differently around famous people. Have you ever found that it's harder to analyse people because
I don't think people act differently around me. I just don't. I don't get that sense. I don't think. I don't feel like I carry that much celebrity weight with me. So I just have never gotten that sense that I'm not getting a true indication. Maybe they are. Maybe they like me. They're pretending they like me more than they actually do. But no, I get his point. But at the same time, I feel like it's. Like a person like Mark is such an authentic human being. That is important to me, to try to depict people that have an authenticity and a real honesty to them.
And I was just saying to Steve just now, I've never seen a film quite like this before. Now, obviously, you've got an incredible pedigree in the industry, but do you still find you have hurdles when coming to making a movie like this, which is very different to anything else, that you've still got to convince studios and producers to let you do your own thing, or because of your career, you're able just to go, yeah, this is what I want? And
it's always a struggle. But I have to say, in the case of this movie, Donna Langley, who's the head of Universal Pictures, was a champion of it from the first time I told her about it, all the way to finally getting it made. But yeah, it's always a struggle, because when you're doing a movie that's unique and original, it's scary.
And do you ever sort of watch your own movies? I interviewed Paul Schrader the other day, and he was saying that he doesn't actively do it, but if he ever sort of stumbles across one of the films he's written or directed, he can't help but just sort of carry on watching it.
Yeah, same thing with me. Yeah. I don't say, hey, I'm going to go look at one of my films. I always use that time to look at someone else's film. But if I stumble on it, I'll watch it, and after a couple of years, I come to appreciate it.
So what's next up for you? Am I right in thinking you're teaming up with Dwayne Johnson for the next one?
Yeah, I'm going to do. I'm developing something with Dwayne about King Kamehameha, who's one of the most famous, if not the most famous, kings of Hawaii. And it's kind of a really interesting blend between reality and a fable. It's really, really a cool story.
So it sounds like quite a dramatic role for Dwayne as well in that.
Oh yeah, it will be. Yeah.
Oh nice. And just quickly before I go, I was going to ask you, because I obviously saw Blockers right at the start of the year, and now it's December, and I think at the time I said, that's probably one of my best comedies of the year. Now it's December, I can actually say that. And it's one of those things where you get these kind of comedies that come around every year that are just quite sort of cut above the rest. Did you get a sense when making that movie that it was going to be one of the really good ones? Because it was just brilliant, and everyone I know I've spoken to just absolutely loved it as well.
Really? That makes me so happy. Thank you. We had a lot of fun making it, so I guess that shows in the work, I guess. If you're miserable making something, it usually winds up being not as good as you'd hoped. Yeah. In my experience, anyway.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey You Guys!